Let's bring out Camille A. Brown. Camille? Please give a big hand to Camille Brown.
So I never would have thought that my book would inspire a main stage choreographic work. And Camille contacted me and asked me if I would help consult with this work, and I'll let her tell about Black Girl Linguistic Play.
Well, why don't I just to set her up so everybody knows a little more about Camille. She is a highly prolific Black female choreographer. She has been reclaiming the cultural narrative of Black identity. She has many, awards for name. She's a Ford Foundation Art of Change Fellow. She's a Guggenheim Fellow. She's a Jacob's Pillow Dance Award recipient. She's a TED Fellow whose video has, like Kyra, has also been seen many millions of times. It's fantastic. Her company is called Camille A. Brown and Dancers. It tours internationally. And the repertoire includes Black Girl Linguistic Play, Inc., which premiered at the Kennedy Center, and many other works. But it's Black Girl Linguistic Play, which is itself inspired by the work of Dr. Kyra Gaunt. Am I right? Yep. So tell us a little about that. Thank you so much for joining us, Camille.
Thank you for having me.
So how did this happen? Like you two?
Yeah, so this Black Girl is the second installment of a trilogy that I did on identity. The first part is Mr. Tolerance, which is about Black stereotypes in the media. And part of the performance is also a conversation with people, because I realized we're talking about race, we're talking about stereotypes, and it kind of evokes a lot of feelings. So we give people a space to just share their feelings. And one of the things that a lot of Black women came up to me and asked was, I going to do anything focused on Black female stereotypes specifically? And normally it takes me about 1 to 2 years to put a work together. And unpacking stereotypes and race, I've said, I don't know if I want to do that again. Another year or two focusing on Black female stereotypes, because it's a little more personal now, because I'm a Black female and I have to still deal with and fight against the angry Black female and the strong Black female trope. So I said, okay, well, what else can I talk about? And I had a very hard time trying to pull out something other than the stereotypes, other than the things that I have to deal with every day. And I was actually working on a musical that was at the Public Theater a couple years ago called Fortress of Solitude. And one of the ideas behind Fortress is the protagonist kind of goes back into his past. It starts in the present and he goes back. And so 2 of the characters were 2 Black girls that needed to come on before they started singing the song. Takes place in the 70s and 80s. I grew up in the 80s, so I said, okay, well, I used to dance double dutch. Let me just give them a double dutch routine before they come on. And so as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, that's what I can do. I can use play as a way to tell that story about Black girls and how we mature through time, and play never leaves us. So I was speaking to Amy Cox, who is a cultural anthropologist, and I was telling her about my idea and this use of double dutch, and she gave me Kyra's book. And when I read it, it all just like made sense. Like, yes, this is what it is. So the first half of Black Girl is pretty much, for me, it's kind of like a Black girl score. What does that sound like if a Black girl came up with like her own album, but the album is coming from her rhythms that she's making herself? So it's going to reggae, it's flipping to hip hop, it's going to African. So it's tying in all of these traditional, but also very current things. Because the thing about rhythm, particularly within the African American culture, is that it's African. So anytime we're riffing off of something, the root of that is from the African tradition. So I wanted to create a piece that honored this idea of play, but also honored the culture where it came from.
So in this process of creating all this, were you guys in conversation at all?
No. No.
This eventually
She invited me to come see the production.
Right, which is
and,
very scary.
You were in.
You're scary.
Well, it's scary to tell
She
somebody
is
you're
so
inspired by
modest.
something, and then they have to go watch it. It's like, that's what you never know how.
Yeah, I'm
I
sure Carrie
inspired
felt like
that. You never know how people are going to react and respond to it. So,
And
yes,
I'm like,
I was very nervous.
She's like a real, like, she has choreographed so many Broadway productions you're probably familiar with. She's just a really phenomenal. And I went to the rehearsal at City Center, and I was dumbfounded. I was just like speechless. It looked like women were like shifting the walls in the space, the choreography that she was playing with at that time. And then it totally morphed into other things by the time the production came out. It's a really amazing. I was saying I got a new job at University at Albany, and my colleagues were like, "We're going to take you to Jacob's Pillow." I was like, "Okay." And we get there, and it's her show. And they're like, "Oh my God, it's you!" They treated me like a celebrity. I was like, "Oh my God."
So
Yeah.
Camille, something that I was struck by when I watched your video about is it called The History of African American Social Dance? Is that the right idea?
Yep.
I'll let you just encapsulate what it is before I ask you the question. Is essentially would you say it's essentially a few centuries of all these different dances that going back to the original, I guess, the first Africans who lived in America and how they used dance not just to socialize, but also in some ways a social commentary against
Yep.
the masters?
Yep, absolutely. So, I mean, you.
I did it.
Yeah. I mean,
One
it's
of the
fine.
early
Oh, go
one of the early dances in the video is the Watusi, and that's in a game song. It's Wah Wah Watusi. It's I have to think about which
Wait,
one.
isn't the Watusi referred to in Land of a Thousand Dances? Doesn't
Yes.
don't they
Yes.
don't they refer to all these different dances,
Yep.
including the Watusi?
by Otis Redding?
Okay, that's
Is
right.
that-
I
yeah?
think so. Yeah. Wait, did Otis Redding sing Land of a Thousand? Okay.
I think.
Anyway, but some of the examples you used are things like the cakewalk, right? Which, I mean, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with the cakewalk, but is it the cakewalk or another dance where they're satirizing high society without high society, meaning white society, recognizing that they're being satirized?
Yeah, it's the cakewalk. Yeah.
Which is similar to what Kyra was saying earlier, which is that there are these messages out in the open, sort of like secretly, but out in the open. So it happens in language, but it also happens in movement.
Yeah, I think that's what the beautiful thing is about movement is the idea of being able to, like you said, you can't necessarily speak and vocalize how you feel, but you can move and express yourself, and you can communicate that movement to someone else. So a lot of the enslaved Africans weren't allowed to use instruments because people feared that they would be communicating kind of messages, but we can still communicate in our bodies too. So our body is an instrument. So how do we still create that movement, that sound based off of what we have?
And do you think that nowadays people are less likely to be moving around the same way that Kyra was saying? They're less likely to be playing double dutch than they were 20 or 30 years ago. Do you find that there's something hard to get people to move?
Oh yeah, it's hard for us to get out of this. The phone.
You know, and I did.
It's so
Yeah.
that I mean we didn't have. I mean, I didn't have the internet. I didn't have email or anything like that when I grew up. So part of play was actually moving and being mobile, and now part of play is going on a website or playing a game on your website. Like you don't have to move to necessarily be physical in that sense, because now the physicality can be digital.
And do you think that's reflected in, I mean, can you tell if you look at somebody, I'm guessing you can, but can you tell when you see someone and it's like, yeah, that person's a dancer? You can?
Yeah.
Is it just sort of like their carriage?
That's a hard. I mean, all I need to do, because a lot of people who are not dancers say they can't dance, and I totally disagree, because I feel like if you can do a two-step, that is really the base. It's just like a first position in a tendu. Like that is the base and the origin of something to get you to the next thing. So if you're doing a two-step, all you have to do is double that step, and you're starting to create movement based off of that. So I mean, I think whether people are dancers can be an argument, because just because you don't have the training doesn't mean that you're not a dancer. Because I think we sometimes have one view of what dance is, which is like the kicks and the turns and the tilts. But if we're connecting it to the African American culture and the African culture, our movement comes from the community. So how can you not do that when it's something that is inherently yours and a part of who you are?
Mm-hmm. I was going to add something about when you asked the question about what's contributed to the loss of play or dance or movement. And a lot has been the lack of recess. And, there's some institutional things that there's no recess, there's more homework. There's no recess, there's more homework. There's no, and the communal part of it is really, really important. This thing where you're just like when you saw me playing with the other people, there's a communication, there's a call and response that's always at work in dance.
Yeah, people don't realize, like, when so much of our communication is the very stripped down form of like just typing something and then you're seeing someone's response online and then you misinterpret what they say, and it's stripped of all that, I don't know, the millions of years of what happens, that physical being co-present with one another. And I know when you're saying something from your facial muscles, the way you're kind of pulling back, certain things that...
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No emotion. Just, I love when my students are like, LOL. Not funny. I'm like, you're not laughing. LOL. Like, just deadpan.
It is missing something. Camille, you got something you want to walk us through? You got an exercise for us?
Oh, yeah. So if everyone feels like it, if we can...
They do.
All right. You kind of don't have a
better
choice,
damn
I
well
guess.
feel like
Okay. All right. So can everyone just stand?
All right, let's stand.
Step one. Okay. So now we're just going to do something standard. We're just going to step two, step two, step. That's it, two, step two. Good, two. Good, good. Now let's step, clap, step, clap, step, clap. Good. Now. Good. Next one. Oh, okay. Yes. Yes. Good. Boom. That's it. Yep. Yes. Next one. And. Yes. Good. One more time. Good. Okay. Now what I want you to do is find a partner. So.
Oh no!
So we're gonna do that and face our partner.
And fears.
Now don't tell them just yet.
And your fears.
Don't tell them just yet, but I want you to do this, and I want you to think about something you want to share with them, but use your body to communicate that, if that makes sense. Okay? So same step. Ready? 5, 6, 7. Oh. 5, 6, 7, and. Okay, now let's stop. Okay, very good. Now what were you saying? What's the step? What were you saying? Someone, can I get someone that wants to share?
All right, who wants to share, you guys?
Is there someone
Sharing.
Yeah, what are you saying?
I intuited that Betty was hungry, and I was right.
Yes, okay, very good.
Did you really intuit that, or are you just saying
she
that?
went with that.
Oh,
She made the
okay.
international symbol of I'm
Okay.
starving.
Who else?
Who else intuited or sensed or picked up on something?
Go ahead.
So we both went like that,
Yeah.
and
clapped each other's hands. Instantaneously.
It just happened.
Great. Okay.
And you've never met this gentleman in your life? Sitting next to you?
That's someone else?
I think we were just all like admiring the fact that we were all getting it right. We were all like about it.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're all doing the same thing, right? What I want you to do is, after the repetition, after doing it over and over again, what I want you to do is start finding your own individuality within it. So what does that mean? I'm not going to tell you what that means, but just figure that out in how you're communicating. Does that mean going a little lower? Does it add like an attitude in it? You know, a little like, can you get a thing in there? Something that is you. Okay? Ready? 5, 6, 7, and. They are rock. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Can you come up? Okay. Yes. Now do what you did.
I can't really remember.
But you know. Yeah. Hey. Yes. Great. So you see how he's loosening up his body and he's making it his? Everyone, let's do that one more time and make it yours. What does that look like? Okay. Ready? Okay. And it's okay to feel crazy. This might feel incredibly weird, but it's okay. Okay? Ready? 5, 6, 7, and. Good. That's it. Right. Very good. Amazing. Now what you did, thank you everybody. Now what you did was a very short, truncated version of social dancing. So one of the things about social dancing is there are two halves that I'm going to talk about. The first half is the structure. So we all had the structure, right? Then the next part of social dance is the idea of your individuality. So this, if we're doing it all the same, it's not fully encompassing the heart of what social dance is. So the fact that we're riffing off of each other and responding, that's how people are led to expression, resistance. You know, they start finding their identity through their movement, and you start communicating that. And because it's something that's physical, I can read and respond off of you. So if you lift your leg, I can't lift my leg right now, but that's something that would inspire me to do something. And that's what we're doing in terms of call and response. That's the African tradition of we're putting something out there, you take it, and then you throw it back with your own individuality. Okay? So let's do this. Yes?
So is line dancing the exact opposite of what you just said?
No. Line dancing is the electric slide.
Yeah.
So if you go 1, 2, 3, boom, you know, everybody's doing the structure, but the way you do it, you know, somebody wants to go on the knee and go back. It's the whole thing. You want to
Double time. No. I think that the merge between the two is where improvisation comes from. It's that you inspire me to do something, and I want to give back a little, and it's not like she just did it and then I'm going to do it. No, it might be like an hour later. I'm like, okay, I'm going to lead.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's really develops community in ways that people, the line dancing thing is that people want it to be right. We're tossing between getting things right and play when we see a line dance that's all the same.
So it needs like the right amount of structure, enough structure that you feel sort of encompassed in something, but you also have room, space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And is there
trust.
something like that right now
And
that
trust.
we're seeing that's like of the moment? And that is there like a newish or recent last few years, like some sort of a social dance that's developed that you can think of?
Okay, who knows a social dance that's happening right now? I have a couple, but what? Can you do the floss?
Oh,
Go, yes.
Everybody can't see you.
Oh, do you want to come up? No, you don't want to do.
Show
okay.
Did anybody see Ted Danson learning the floss?
There we go. She knows it.
Oh, you know the floss?
Can you do the floss?
Hey!
Yeah.
That's great. Yes. Yep.
The floss is a great example. All right, so it's still happening, and this.
The
what?
Dougie.
The Dougie.
Yep, the Nay
Oh, the Dougie. Okay.
The whip.
Nay.
The whip. Okay, so there's a
Yeah.
lot of. Stanky leg.
The stanky leg.
What the hell's a stanky leg?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nasty.
Yeah.
They call it the stanky.
That's Jersey.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, so okay. Here's the thing. Like,
Maybe we can all sit down now.
we can all sit
Okay.
down as you were.
Well done.
That was great. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Camille. Thank you, audience.
You don't usually clap after playing anyhow. I'm trying to force it. Oh my God, that was the best hand clapping game ever.
Stickers for everyone.
I mean, there's
No, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
saying I think there's a level of abandonment when we're children that sometimes I work to get back to, because now it's, oh, I don't want to move because I'm gonna look crazy. You know, you start second guessing yourself. And when I was a child, I don't remember having to go through all of that and negotiating that. I would just do it. If I wanted to run across the field, I would just go and not care. If I tripped and fell, well, I would be embarrassed. But there's still a level of embarrassment.
Do you remember this? You'd be running with your friends and you'd fall and get a snot, just like, oh my God, the air knocked out of you. But you don't want to lose, so you just get back up again and you don't stop. There's
Yeah.
there's abandon in it. Yeah.
You think there's just too much formality and like structure going on?
Please, you better be at work on time. You better do your homework. You do this. There's all of this, the
Productivity.
rules, the productivity, work. Not like Rihanna's work.
But we find play. I mean, I think we still, even as adults, find a way. I mean, even passing memes. You know, I mean, I could be really stressed and I'll check my phone and someone would send me like a hilarious meme and I'll just start laughing.
It's fun.
I mean, I think play is still in there, and even how I riff with my friends. There's a rhythm in how we talk to each other too. Yeah, I mean, how I speak with my mom and the relationship I have with her. Like there's a rhythm of how we speak to each other and how she talks to me, and I can hear. It's almost like her. She's doing, when she's talking, she's doing like a dance. Sometimes I translate how she's speaking to me in terms of like movement.
Yeah.
So it lives in us and it continues to guide us. And I think for me, what was helpful about creating Black Girl was that it reminded me that play is still very much a part of my story. Because as an adult, like I said before, we're fighting so hard, and I'm working so hard against the stereotypes or the tropes, and to just be give myself the agency to enjoy was liberating. And I think it was liberating for all of us. I don't want to speak for the rest of the dancers, but I think it was just like an immense power, and we felt proud of who we were as Black girls and Black women. And I think the idea of girl, people, I still call my friends girls, and I'm gonna be 39 next month. So the idea of how are we placing the word girl? Yeah. It can be a girl of 99 and a girl of 9.
One of the things that I love about all this, and I hope that we can take away, is this idea of like, how do we inject playfulness into our lives a little more, especially when we're sort of like besieged by the productivity and all that kind of stuff in a way which even 5 or 6 years ago I did not feel, that sense of like almost panic of trying to stay on top of the day, So there's actually a video that I think you, Kyra, had pointed us to, which I'd love to show this if we can, and then Kyra, we can talk about it. Mm-hmm. It's a video, I think, of people who are working, but also in some ways who are playing, right?
This is Accra, Ghana, a postal office. About 20 years ago when I showed this, I had a highly productive student say, well, that wouldn't be efficient.
It looks pretty fast to me. I mean, this guy looks crazy efficient to me.
And this was during the time when people were shooting people in postal offices. I was like, this is needed.
I think the thing that this video shows too is that rhythm gets us through. So, if you think about the work songs, I mean, that's the way that people kept going. People kept working for hours and hours was because of the rhythm, because of the lyrics and the words that they were using to drive. So if we can imagine, he does that all day.
In Accra, Ghana.
Isn't that great? Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. That is amazing. I mean, do you guys inject play into the more mundane aspects of your day too? Do you know how to do that?
I do dance breaks.
When?
And I have friends, I've been training them. I'm like, take it to your office. It's just like, I'm having a hard day. Like, turn on some music and like 5-minute dance break or just a 1-minute dance break. Just to break up the monotony and remember that you got to shake off that heady adult brain. Just shake it off. Like, it's too serious now.
Yeah.
You can't be serious when you're like...
I try that next time I'm interviewing somebody. Just start shaking around.
Right. I play Legos.
I love Legos.
Totally not ashamed of it. I used to do it when I was younger. And maybe about 5 years ago, I was coming home and I was so stressed. I was on this project and I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to forget for like an hour that I'm an adult. And I just happened to walk by the Lego store and I got myself like a $20 box. And it just felt so good to do that and give myself that permission. And then, of course, it's like, what do you, and the voice in your head is like, you're not a kid anymore. But it's just like, you know what? I'm doing the stuff that helps me. This is part of my self-care, which is very important. And I think that movement adds to self-care.
Self-care.
And I color, too.
You do? What do you color?
Oh, well, I have a couple of books that friends have given me, so I color that. It's not really interesting, but
but it is.
Yeah,
but it is. Yeah.
It's not like
it's good.
Van Gogh or anything.
Yeah, I just want to say, Camille, I used your video for a couple days in class for a bunch of 18-year-olds.
And which video are you referring to? The one I talked about earlier?
The
social history of dance.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I taught seniors in high school, and we did it for 2 days, and the kids absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And throughout the year, they did a lot of they had to these fundraisers where they did these galas with all the students and parents, and dancing was the lead activity for all these kids. And they came from probably 15 or 20 countries from around the world, and that was their language. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's
great.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Movement is our first language, right? Like, and it captures so much. I mean, you don't have to use words to communicate. It just captures so much more than mere words.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else anyone want to ask?
What do you
a question
do?
Or make
What do
a
you do
statement?
to add play to your life, grown-ups?
So I have two more sidewalk game questions.
Oh.
One is how, if you want to respond to hopscotch, what's the origin of hopscotch, and does it really have anything to do with numbers, or what is it? And then I'll ask the second after.
I don't know. I just know that there's some video that's circulating around the web where you just put the hopscotch outline in the middle of a busy area, and people are just kind of like...
They don't actually play it. They do? They do.
Yes!
They do. Oh.
So, I mean, I think we don't invest enough. My TED Talk ends with talking about the series it's in is about how simple objects change life. So just a rope, right? So once you put the structure down, it's kind of like what Camille was just saying. The structure is there. But you should have seen, it was like dozens of adults, and they all had different ways of doing the hopscotch, because we all learn there's no right way to play double dutch or to do dance, or there's a structure, but there's no limit you can add to it.
So then the other question has to do with what was at one time known as Chinese jump rope.
Oh, yes.
Which my daughter learned when we were as a family living abroad, and the children didn't call it Chinese jump rope. It was a different language, and they called it elastic. And but it was incredibly rhythmic and very sophisticated, and they did long variations. And so I was wondering if you had anything more to say about
Is
that.
single rope, double rope? What is it?
Oh,
It's a unified rope, like a rubber band, and it goes around your ankles.
Oh.
And it's got a series of little tricks that goes with it and expands. There's that in the Philippines. There's a thing called tinkling. Thank you. I didn't
The
remember.
sticks.
Yeah,
I
the
did that as a
sticks.
kid, like in 2nd or 3rd grade.
Yeah, and so just the independent invention of things that are kind of like double dutch and similar, and there's a whole set of single rope games and play that people just make up stuff. That's the thing. But as you get older, we don't. Yeah,
That's a weird thing, right? Like stripping it out,
right.
like when we know it feels good to do.
There's this. I brought this quote. It said, it's by Oliver Wendell Holmes. Men do not quit playing because they grow old. They grow old because they quit playing. And you got to play. I mean, even if it's like Taboo or Jenga, or it's for me. It's the memes are interesting. It is a form of play, but I think we're very much missing embodied social play. Face to face, not mediated through a screen, like where you have to like gauge the expression. Like maybe you don't want to play. You're like, oh come on, you're like, no, I don't want to play. No, come on. You can't see that on a screen. I don't mean like real time. Like it's happening in the moment, and you got to react to it in the moment. I think we're losing the face to face stuff. We should play more, or even to just have conversations about, well, what games did you play? And if you just start playing or doing any of the things that we've done, it triggers something in the brain. We start to wake up, it seems, to the potential that you can do whatever you want. Somebody asked me, years ago, I asked you backstage, there was a club in Harlem called St. Nick's Pub. I'm a jazz vocalist, and I used to go there, and it was closing, and I had worked all day at NYU, and I was tired, and I called my friend, and she was like, I was like, oh, niece, I can't go. I'm just tired. I know it's the last night. She goes, Kyra, what did you say when you were little? When you were a kid? It's like, what? What did you say when you were a kid? That I can do whatever I want when I grow up? Yes. I was like, yeah, I can do whatever I want. And I went out, and it was awesome. But, the adult brain is like, no, I got to work in the morning.
Deadlines.
The social monkey brain is like, you can go out.
That's true, we can.
I just wanted to say, even though we have like the internet and people are focusing on, other things, I think the idea of like the hand clap game and the way we communicate still lives, because if we look at like the dab, if you look at the way men communicate and just take them specifically, they're all doing a different thing. Somebody does this, or somebody, that's their form of identity, and that's their sense of play too. And that's also their secret language. Only the two of them, or the four of them, whoever's involved, know really what those really mean to them. It's a symbolism of brotherhood, just like this hand clap games and double dutch is symbolic of sisterhood. So I think across the board, there's something really special about gesture and rhythm, and the fact that regardless of whatever technology we have, that's still something that people are moved to do.
I'm always amazed when she shares about her work, and when you get to see the choreography, you're just so articulate. And sometimes dancers just are articulate with their body, but you just so have the essence.
Thank you.
You remind me. So I go to this place called Orange Theory Fitness, and they do fist bumps, right? And I always go like this, and it's from
Yeah.
And
It's from
no
what?
one changes. It's from
in my
her
piece we
production.
do.
But I mean, it's a common thing in Black culture. It's like we always add something like 5-point star.
Five-point
You
star.
always add something to
Yeah.
snap, so you don't. And so I always feel like, wow, I'm Black and these people are not, because they don't ever want to play. It's just like, we're going to fist pump every time. Fist bump him, fist bump. And I'm like, pow.
Yeah. And there's a play in the snap too. I mean, the stereotypical idea of it is like, whatever you see people portraying.
Or stir
But
the
it's
pot.
like, depending on how you do a snap, it can mean 4 different things.
Yeah.
So that's the dimensions too of gesture, is that
Yeah.
we have to differentiate between the stereotype and the things that people perceive versus the various dimensions that and the ways that Black people communicate, because this is something different from very different.
Like, girl.
And you don't have to say anything. You know exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Camille.
Or not. This is when you're supposed to all snap. Go ahead.
Go right, this is when you snap.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Camille Brown and Kyra Gaunt, thank you so much for joining us. And to quote a wise man named D'Angelo, play on, play on. You didn't mean it all that way. Thank you guys. Good night.
Thank you.